What if you could find brand new worlds right here on Earth, where anything is possible? Same planet, different dimension. I found the gateway.
The Rewatch podcast presents the Sliders Rewatch, dedicated to the series Sliders on Fox and Sci-Fi Channel. Join us each week as we continue crossing the Einstein-Rosen-Podolsky Bridge and find ourselves in strange new worlds. Email your thoughts on each episode to the rewatchpodcast@gmail.com. Join us on Facebook at facebook.com/rewatchpodcast or on Twitter @rewatchpod.
And welcome back to the Rewatch Podcast and our Sliders Rewatch. I'm Cory.
And I'm the guy who invented the machine that's going to remap your mind into thinking that Requiem is the best episode of Sliders ever.
You've already done that to me. Requiem is the best.
What can I say? My work here is done.
Yes. Okay, well, thank you for joining us, everyone. We're, of course, discussing 2 more episodes of Sliders. And this week it is Requiem and Map of the Mind.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get right into it. Our first episode is Requiem, written by Michael Reeves, newcomer, I think. I think we've seen him before.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
And directed by Paul Lynch. And this originally aired on September 10th of 1999.
I'm glad to see you guys.
How can you be back? You never left.
What? Hey, I was gone. I don't know how or where, but I wasn't here. And there was someone else with me.
At one point, it sounded like you were talking to Wade.
Maggie told us about her. The friend you lost to the Cro-Mags?
I saw her. She was there, I think. And I saw a lot of other things, too. I couldn't straighten out the images, but... man, it was crazy. You think I'm nuts?
No.
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 Yeah, well, I'm telling you, I was someplace else.
All right. Well, why don't you lie back down and get some sleep? We all should do that. We slide at daybreak.
Yeah. Maybe it was the bad air, huh?
You're probably right.
Yeah.
We meet up with our sliders at the end of 2 weeks on a peaceful and seemingly uninhabited world, despite being landscaped. When Remy starts to feel tired, they reason that it could have been the smoke on the heavily polluted world they visited previously. But soon we see that Remy is experiencing intense dreams and visions about Wade. After sliding through to the Chandler Hotel, Remy soon experiences more visions, this time in the form of a vortex that the other sliders see as well, and he becomes convinced that it is Wade trying to contact them to come and rescue her. They jump through the vortex, find themselves in a Cro-Mag prison camp, and eventually make their way, via Wade's telepathy, to where they find her disembodied head stuck in a large machine, her brain being used to power a computer. Our gang is quickly captured by the Cro-Mags, but Remy goes full badass and takes down their jailers, but while trying to find Wade, they are captured again. Remy pleads with Wade telepathically to help stop the Cro-Mags from invading their homeworld, and she manages to shut the whole system down while the Sliders take down the Cro-Mags. As reinforcements try to get into the room, Wade sees what has become of her and pleads with them to leave before they are captured again. Mallory, Diana, and Maggie slide, but Remy refuses to leave, not willing to abandon his friend. The Cro-Mags enter, but Wade uses her powers to fry them as well as the whole Cro-Mag base and teleport Remy to the next world that the Sliders slid to, where he reports that Wade saved him and is gone, but somehow also maybe not, as Remy sees a promo shot of Wade telling him that she'll always be there for him.
At first, they kept waiting me in the same cell. We knew the Mags would be listening, so we didn't talk much. But it helped just seeing each other, being together. Then they'd separate us for questioning, and I'd be gone for hours. When they finished, they'd dump me back into the cell. Sometimes Wade was there, and sometimes she wasn't. They messed with my head pretty good. drugs. Made me see things that weren't there. After a while, I didn't know whether it was Wade or some Cro-Mag imposter. I mean, how was I to know for sure?
You couldn't have. We all know what the Cro-Mags can do.
Yeah. So I just shut her out. And then they took her. She fought. And she screamed. And I just sat there. They said they would take her to a breeder camp unless I talked. Just figured it was part of the show. Never saw her again.
Okay, so we have like a mass amount of trivia on this. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's basically. I mean, all right, it's not totally different from the script, the episode that aired, but there's some big differences between that and the original script. So that's what we got here. This trivia, of course, comes from iReactions, and he got this all from Temporal Flux, from Dimension of Continuity, and of course the writer of the episode, Michael Reeves, as well. Now, Michael had this idea for a story where a woman became mentally linked with Remy across the dimensions, and that was going to be the basis for the story. And then we had Bill Dial, who wanted to resolve the whole Wade issue, which Mark Scott Zickrey had tried to resolve back in season 4, but was eventually pushed out. So basically, it was the fans that wanted to have that storyline resolved, and they were pushing. So this is what Bill Dial came up with. So they changed the woman to Wade instead of this random woman that they had, which is good. That's a good idea. And originally, the ending was that Wade would actually die at the very end. However, as we know, it was changed so that it was a little bit more ambiguous at the end, whether she was actually gone or if she was still around. And Bill Dial said that this was because Sci-Fi demanded that. But that doesn't really make sense because, as we know, Sci-Fi was kind of like, Sliders? What? Oh, yeah, that show.
We are still funding that, right?
That's right. That's still going on? Oh, well, okay, whatever. So that doesn't really fit, But anyway, so that was the original idea. Now, we have Sabrina Lloyd, of course, who did not want to do this show. They had expected maybe we can get her back, but she didn't want to do it because she was just, as everyone was, disgusted by how Wade, ended up in a breeder camp. It was just like, forget it. I'm not doing this, And it was only Clevant who, could talk to her and convince her to, please come back and do this episode. And she eventually agreed to do it, but only voice work. She would have shown up. Well, she said she would have shown up if they had paid her the same salary as Remy was getting. Clevant. Clevant was getting $40,000 per episode at this point, being the lead actor. And that's what Sabrina wanted. She said, I'll come back for this episode. I want $40,000. $40,000. And they're like, no, that's not going to happen. But they managed to get her back just for the voice work. She did 1 day of voice work. So all these lines were done in 1 day. And I don't know, I'm pretty sure that probably no other actors were present. Maybe Clevant was, because it was a favor to him. But I'm pretty sure she probably just went into the studio and then popped out those lines one after another. So this is not the best atmosphere for trying to act and be dramatic. You know what I mean?
We'll talk about it when we get there.
Yeah. So that's too bad. And if you notice, and I looked through to make sure, and I maybe I missed it, but I didn't see any credits for Sabrina Lloyd in the episode at all.
No.
At the very end, they credit the Sabrina double or the Wade double, but they don't, not even her voice. They don't even mention, in the credits. It's like, that's weird, come on. Oh, well. So anyway, that's the behind the scenes stuff. Now, the script that is over at earthprime.com, it's a little different. It's the same basic idea, but it really is a better script. What they had written was much better than what they eventually aired. It makes a little more sense. It's still not a good fitting end for the character of Wade, but it's a better episode in general. Some of the problems that come up in the final episode aren't too present here in this in the script. So basically, in the beginning, the setting is very similar. It's very, lush with green all over, but there's no like landscaping, because you see our sliders walking around. There's like a pathway that someone built, and they even call it out. Don't they say something like, "Oh, someone built this,"
Yeah, this place is empty, but someone had to put this garden together.
Yeah, it's like, we're not going to resolve that. But anyway, in the original one, there was none of that. It was just all green and woods and everything like that, natural, foresty area. And they're walking through there, and they make a note that the three sliders are wearing regular, sneaker type footwear, but that Remy was wearing cowboy boots. And they're talking about, boy, this must be an Earth where, no humans evolved. It's so peaceful, And then all of a sudden, Remy has a vision that takes him to a battlefield where there's like a big war going on, and that is where Wade appears. Okay, as like a ghost-like form, sort of like she did in the episode, but it was much more detailed because it's a battlefield. There's like, it even described it. It said it made some great battle of history look like, a tea party or something like that. So it was supposed to be this giant big thing. When he comes out of the trance, the thing that I thought was weird, the way they wrote it, the way that Michael Reeves wrote it, was that the reactions of the other sliders were a little strange. Like, he's obviously talking to Wade in this trance, and Mallory, who is called Michael in the script because they hadn't figured out what he was going to be yet, Mallory says something like, "It wasn't Wade. Wade's likely dead or still in the breeder camp." It's like, what? That's kind of harsh. You don't even know her.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, come on, have a little bit of, faith. And then they're like, and he's like, how do we track her? There's a gazillion dimensions now, there's no time, so it's just very negative, they decide that they'll stay where they were right there in that particular area of the forest until it's time to slide, which is like 5 or 6 hours away. Maybe she'll contact him again. She never does, but when they go to slide, all right, they slide into that battle world that he saw. So they activate the timer and they go into that battle world. And this is the world where he's going to find Wade, just like in the final episode. And so they don't go into the Chandler like they do in the episode proper, slide into the actual room.
Right.
And we'll talk about that too. So they get into this battle world, and they find a big building. They go into it, and Remy's talking about this area here. Oh, I remember this. This is the area where they scan you. You have to pass a DNA scan. And if you get your barcodes fitted here, this is where they do it. And if you don't pass the DNA scan, you get disintegrated. And I'm reading that, and I'm like, why would they disintegrate you? Why would they need you to pass a DNA scan? They know you're human. So if they either need you for a breeding camp, or they need you, or they don't. So they just disintegrate you. It was just weird. Like, reading the whole script, there's so many things we can pick apart as well. It's like not even just little minor changes. It's like there's so many weird things in the original script as well as the episode proper. So I don't know, this whole DNA scan area, like I didn't get why they had a DNA scan room. It's like, oh, that's a female human. We need her for the breeder camp. Oh, that's a male human. We can kill him. But no, they have a DNA scanner for some reason. I don't know what they're looking for, but they have that. So they have that room. They, talk about that. Mallory decides to lockpick a door because he's carrying around a lockpick kit, just like Quinn did back in the one episode. He says, let's be more subtle this time and lockpick instead of kicking it down. Let's be more subtle. So he does that. When they go into the one particular room, there's tons of like torture and experiment equipment all around, like needles and saws and things like that. Real horror type room, and like things hanging from the ceiling, bloody or whatever. And it was really, it was like trying to make this scary room. And they find that disembodied head that they found in the episode. Yeah, well, they find that, but then like, it's not just the head, it's like his whole body is in there, and like in a very horror like move, the man's hand reaches up and grabs Mallory, like in a horror film type move with the music and everything, scaring him, and he's like, please kill me, that type of thing. So it's I think it's better than what we had, but still not by much. So Diana she says, I want to find a Cro-Mag computer and hack in. Maybe we can find out where Wade is. So, okay, that's cool. Fine. That's what she's, she could do that. But then when she finds one, they make some comments about, is that going to even work? And Diana says, oh yeah, these things use lithium internal batteries. They'll last for years. Like, what? How do you know that? How do you know that?
You have no contact with Cro-Mags or their technology.
Exactly. Yeah. And then, so they show her hacking into it, and then she's talking out loud to herself. She goes, oh, it's always tricky matching the codes. What do you mean it's always tricky? When did you do this last, Diana? When did you hack a Cro-Mag computer? I'm like, come on, really?
Not to mention she would have to know Cro-Mag in order to hack
Exactly. Exactly. It was so odd. And I'm just going to sum that up to, it's, again, they didn't communicate a lot with the writers, so they didn't know maybe all of the backstory that was coming before them,
right.
So they probably just assumed, I guess. So Wade makes contact again. She says there's a big weapon and the Cro-Mag's going to destroy everything. So Remy, he's sort of linked to Wade now, and he's using that to go towards where Wade is. Okay, they eventually overpower some mags. Maggie does a little like sultry walk and say, hey, you know what they say about Cro-Mags? Something real cheesy like that. And it's a distraction so they can attack the Cro-Mags. And they eventually find Wade, but then they're captured, just like in the episode proper. And this is where they, it's explained that, it's only one human in 100 that has enough brain power, to actually power our psionic drive and not burn out. And this is who it is. Your friend is that 1 in 100 that can actually do it. Using her, we can shatter the force field that's surrounding our home world and take it back, from the humans. So it's basically the same there. They get caged up, just like they did in the episode proper. Mallory never freaks out and turns down the juice on the machine. But they get caged and they are held in place by a force field. They find out that some things can go through the force field because the Cro-Mags wander right through it, and then they start beating up Remy, like just torturing him kind of. And they leave, and they're like, how the heck could they go through it and not us, And just happens that Remy has something wrong with his foot. He says he has a blister on his foot, and he takes off his boot, and it goes through the force field. So the other sliders take off their shoes and try to throw it through the force field. It doesn't go. And they figure out that since Remy's wearing the cowboy boots that he was wearing earlier, it's made of cowhide, and it's organic. So organic things can pass through the force field, but non-organic things can't. So he takes his other boot and throws it at the device that will turn off the force field and turns the force field off. They get out of the cage, and they find that the Cro-Mags have left the timer behind sitting there nicely for them to grab. So they grab that, and they go to find Wade. They find the huge manta ship, and it's going to go through a giant big vortex. And so they rush to go after it, and they run, and they get caught in the vortex along with the ship, and they're floating in the vortex alongside the big Cro-Mag ship, and eventually get inside the ship through some hatch or something. So now they're on the ship, and that's where they find that Wade has been moved to the ship. And Remy gets in contact with her again. They get into the room that she's in, and she's trying to block out the Cro-Mags from getting in. She says, you guys got to go because, I can't hold them off. She creates the vortex. It's the only vortex she actually creates in the script, and everyone goes through except Remy because he wants to stay. And she says, let me see through your eyes, same things in the episode. Then she freaks out, and she starts blowing up the whole ship. Starts blowing up the whole ship. And she says, Remy, I'm free. I'm okay now. It's the end. It's all gonna die. Everything's gonna blow up here. And so Remy goes and slides, and the ship just explodes, and it's done, and they're dead. And the script says that the sliders end up on not the same world that they began on, but a warm, safe place. Remy is very upset. He says no one knows, on the home world knows that they are safe because of Wade's sacrifice, and Maggie comforts him, and everybody does, and Mallory says, well, there's lots of more universes out there, and I'm sure there's more Wades out there where they, more universes where she survived. And then it fades out on that.
Okay.
It's a lot of stuff. It's not exactly totally different from our episode, but there's little things that make it a little better, and then there's things that I like I said, I still question. But I don't know. I think it doesn't have some of the problems that we have with the actual episode.
Yeah, and I think ultimately too, imagination, like thinking about this, the Manta ship, and
Yeah.
getting into like you can visualize that in your head.
Yeah.
But instead, like we're familiar with how the episode is as it was
Yeah.
presented to us, and it's actually
Yes.
pretty shoddily shot, and yeah. So
I mean, you could see why they made so many changes because of budget, because this would have been a very expensive episode. Battlefields,
yeah.
you know, the effects of a vortex big enough for the Manta ship and all that. So yeah, you could see, you know, why they changed it, but boy, it's not a terrible original script episode if they had stuck to that.
could have been interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Well, do we have time to fit in a quick impression before we move on?
After all that, I think we still do.
Yeah, maybe just.
Yeah.
All right. Cue the music.
Alan Rickman, Tony Todd, Kermit the Frog, and Sean Connery stroll through a park. Ah, I wish we could stay on this world forever. This place is so beautiful.
Oh man.
You got a Kermit in your throat there?
After 2 weeks, the peace and quiet would drive you crazy.
Well, no worries. We leave tomorrow.
Hey, smell these. He holds out flowers. Sure beats that toxic smog on the last world. Sean gets a headache. Oh.
He's throwing a moan.
You got it, because it's not visual.
Oh. Are you okay?
That's a good thing we left that world when we did. That air just about did me in.
You look tired, Sean.
What?
You look tired.
No, I'm fine. As for this new world, data and coordinates are logged. What should we call this world? Pleasant World?
I'm gonna psych myself up for this voice.
How about empty world? As in, no one's home.
I'll vote for Paradise World, but if a snake comes up and offers you an apple, just say no. And scene.
Little rough in the old larynx there.
Yeah, I was going to say. Like I said, you have a Kermit in your throat.
I can increase the electrical stimulant. That'll make her more coherent.
Did you hear me, Wade? We're gonna get you out of this.
I've got voice comm. Can't you do it? Yes, but there's a fail-safe mechanism. If I disconnect her, she'll flatline.
Remy, I have to see myself. I have to know what they've done to me. Let me look through your eyes. Please.
We don't have time. They'll be through that door any second.
Can't deny her this. She deserves to know. Go ahead, Wade. But you're not gonna like what you see.
What's happening?
The shock must have caused an adrenaline rush. She's flushing the tranquilizer.
She's awake. Completely awake.
Listen to me, all of you. The Chromax will be through that door in another minute. You've got to get out. Now! Hurry, I can't guarantee where it will come out, but it's better than staying here. That ship's not going anywhere.
No, we're not leaving you here.
Remy, there's nothing you can do.
Be here.
We've got 20 seconds till the slide.
Are you coming?
No.
All right. Well, let's get into our discussion of Requiem. All right. So, yeah, we're in a pleasant, peaceful garden.
Yes.
And they're discussing the smog of the previous world and enjoying all the flowers. But Remy's a little out of it.
I gotta say, they spend so much time on the smog about this previous world. It's like we didn't see this previous world. It's just a ridiculous excuse for his visions, that he starts having. I was very distracted by a lot of the things in this episode, and this is one of the first things. It's like the smoke, the smog. Like, give it up already.
Chekhov's Smog World.
Yeah, I know. It's like, come on. It's so. Yeah, so they're talking about the smog and everything looks great and everything, but then Remy has a vision of quote, a young woman, we're not sure, and then he screams out, Wade. This is where we're like, oh, Wade's coming back, and you get excited.
Do you think, like, when this originally aired, like, you couldn't quite see the woman's face in the vision or something? But now you watch it, it's got digital conversion, it's been up-converted a bit, so it's a bit clearer.
Right.
It is really obvious that this woman is not Wade.
Right.
It's some stand-in with short hair.
Right, exactly. The bob haircut that she had going on, of course, yeah. I mean, I didn't know when I first watched it. I remember thinking, oh, wow, she's back. Even when she's in the tank, later on with just the head, I'm like, oh, wow, I can't believe they got her back.
It's fine later, like, yeah, when you see her in the tank later.
Right.
That looks like Sabrina Lloyd.
Right.
But yeah, these visions it looks, it's close, I guess, but you can tell it's not her. To everyone else, it just looks like Remy's in like a bit of a trance and he passes out.
Mm-hmm.
And while he's, all passed out on the ground like that, they're starting to theorize that, this could be a result of the smog. Because we were just in a smog world. Remember, we were just talking about that for 5 minutes.
Right. Or maybe it's his guilt over, leaving Wade behind, just breaking him down. And then the weirdest thing, Mallory, the scientist, says maybe it's a side effect of the long-term exposure to sliding. I'm like, all of this, it's just padding. None of it really matters. We're not going to explore any of that at all. If we had an episode, that would focus on, like, what are the long-term effects of sliding? That would be interesting. But this, like, there's throwing out these things, and none of this is going to get, like, addressed really at all.
Well, I think they're a bit off on the timing as well when it comes to a couple of things. I mean, Maggie says, like, oh, Remy's been carrying this around with him for over a year now.
Yeah.
And then later on, he's like, oh, man, it's been so bad. It's been over 2 years since all that happened to Wade. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Like, Maggie was talking about over a year, which I guess, over 2 years is over a year, but she said a year. Remy saying 2 years. I'm like, it's not quite gelling there. Didn't bother to fix that line, did you?
Well, yeah, again, it's that quality control. When someone flubs a line like Diana with the Battle of Bulge, it's like, we don't have time to fix it, just take it.
But Remy, he comes to and he's a bit confused about his experience, and the others look pretty worried. That old thing of like, let's just stare at each other in a worried fashion. And they're just like, Remy, just sleep it off. That's fine. But he wakes up. They all just lie down on the grass and go to sleep in this garden that somebody had to have built. But whatever.
Exactly. Yeah.
And he sees a vortex open and close. And nobody else sees it.
It's definitely a different looking vortex, I will say.
It is.
I noticed that. Yeah, I definitely noticed that.
It's like a bit like more squared off.
Mm-hmm.
A bit, I don't know, like silvery or something like that.
And someone mentions that in the Messages in Time as well.
But yeah, so everyone's just like, Remy, seriously, you just really need some sleep, right?
Yeah, you're crazy, man.
And this is the worst, because they slide to the next world, straight into the Chandler, into a room, right
on the bed.
And of course, Remy's still like, my headache just keeps persisting.
Right.
So they're like, you just go to sleep. And I'm like, not even going to go downstairs and, like, check in. I mean, this could be anybody's room. Like,
Exactly.
What the hell?
Well, it's just they're standing, in reservation. They just have it on every dimension, That's what they do.
I don't know. It just keeps going on like this for a while. Like, them just worrying about Remy and, like, coming up with things like, oh, what could be wrong with him? And we're like, well, we saw the visions. We saw the vortex. Like, they're not going to show us this stuff if it's not really there, if it's all just in Remy's head.
Yeah, and then Mallory starts wondering, how long was he alone on that world? Maybe we got the wrong Remy. I'm like, what? No, this is, it's like like you said, we saw the vision, so we know it's happening for him. So we know it's real and happening to him. And like the other guys are so distrusting of it. It's like, come on, this is supposed to be your friend. Have some faith, he's not just going crazy.
Even Maggie has to have a go at Diana because she's like flicking through the yellow pages looking for a psychiatrist.
Now, the thing that I thought was they were probably trying to do is they were trying to create some distrust in the group among each other, just like they did back in the Azure Gate world when they weren't sure which professor was which, you know? And it really worked there. But here it doesn't, because we know that Remy is experiencing these things. You know, if maybe they had not shown us the visions and stuff like that, you know, of course it would have, you know, been not as good a story if we hadn't seen some of those visions, but it would have left the question of, is he experiencing something when he passes out? You know, if we had stayed with the Sliders instead of going with Remy and those visions, maybe that would have helped a little bit.
Exactly. And it's just, again, it's going back to that padding out thing. They just keep padding it out because Remy gets another migraine.
Oh, God, yes.
And the vortex opens again in front of him. And they're like all looking at it like, ooh, what do we do? And then it closes again. And then they have to have a long conversation about like, why is this vortex opening? Do we go through it? I'm going to go through it. I don't care what you're doing. So they need to come to the decision of whether or not they're going to go through it. And you're like, of course they're going to go through it. Like,
exactly.
Everybody's going to stay together.
Yep.
So it just, it really just pads out for a while. And then it's inconsistent because the vortex opens again and like Remy's not getting a migraine or anything from it. So
right, yeah.
Yeah, it's inconsistent about like what's actually going on here and why it's opening, because he's just like, Wade's drawing us to her and she could open up vortex somehow.
Right.
So let's just go. They end up going through it, of course, and the timer resets itself, right?
Yeah, see, I didn't know that. I didn't see that part.
Yeah, they get there, and Maggie looks at the timer and goes, okay, 2 hours. Whatever we're going to do in 2 hours. And I'm like, was it 2 hours on the last world, or did this timer reset? Because
exactly, like,
should it be able to do that? We know if you miss a slide, how long do you get stuck on a world if you miss a slide?
29.7 years. Yeah.
So now this is just resetting to 2 hours, I guess, for whatever reason.
Yeah, see, that's why I said, like, the original script had them sliding like they usually do, you know, with the timer, and it wasn't until the very end when Wade opened a vortex for them, which still, you know, causes problems with the whole timer resetting and all that stuff too. But it's a little bit better than what we get here in this episode.
But they try to remind us of better times and
better episodes.
A wonderful scene.
Yeah,
between Clavant and Sabrina Lloyd.
Yes, it was a great scene. Loved it. You know, for me, that's like the best part of the episode. A flashback to another episode
back when he still had the stash.
Exactly.
And is talking to Wade about being together and having each other. We're each other's family now. And
exactly.
I love you, girl.
Exactly. We haven't heard from Remy in a while. To get him back.
Yeah. It has been a while. So they find this Cro-Mag medical lab, and Remy passes out again randomly. I don't know. It's like it had been abandoned for a while, but it seems like they're mounting their attack from this world. So why this place is all run down and stuff, I don't know.
Exactly. They could just be in a bad part of the building, you know, the storage area maybe or something. I don't know. I'm trying to find a way to reason to make it seem like, oh yeah, that makes sense. It's not that bad. It's not that bad.
Yeah. And we get another vision, and Wade tells him her thoughts are allowing her to bring Remy to this place, and he thinks that she must hate him, but she says, oh, I can never hate you. And it's sort of setting up for where we're going to go, because we're actually going to get a really good bit of acting from Clavant. You know,
right.
He does get moments still that are just amazing moments, you know, but you know, he has to talk them into coming and finding Wade. He says, at least give me an hour. If I can't find Wade, then I'll let it go and we'll move out.
Don't forget, Mallory and Diana still not believing him. They want to sedate him.
Yeah.
She just finds this suitcase of stuff. She doesn't know what it is. You know, it looks like a standard veterinary kit, and she wants to just use one of the tubes on Remy and sedate him until the slide.
Because maybe being Cro-Mag animal tranquilizers is, you know, it seems like a safe option.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so we get to that part where they're drawn to that huge manta ship. But, you know, like, I couldn't tell. It was hard to see what it was, really, on the screen. You know, you just have to go by their dialogue that it's a giant, you know, big ship.
Yeah, I know. Just looking at it, you're like, oh, that's a cheap effect.
Well, yeah.
It really is. Remy's, like, getting the vibes from Wade, and she's sort of leading them through this facility. And for some reason, Mallory's like, I wonder what's in this crate. let's open it, as if like they haven't walked past like 50 million crates on their way there.
Exactly.
Let's just look in this one. And they open it up. There's this head in there, and I think we've seen this head before.
Right, you were saying, yeah.
It's the episode where they left Maggie behind, and that double switched out.
Right, and they were using the
they were using the pilots
mines.
and connecting. Yeah. So we've seen that head before.
Right.
It's just a reusing of a prop.
Yeah, they're linking the episodes. No, they're not. They're not.
I know. No, because this time the head in the jar is quote-unquote Cro-Mag science.
Yes.
So why Remy hasn't brought up before that they were using people's minds to run computers or whatever. I don't know, but somehow he knows this is Cro-Mag science. They cut off people's heads and stick them in jars. That's what Cro-Mags do, apparently. You know, Remy is drawn to Wade, but they find her suspended in liquid with probes attached to her brain, her exposed brain, right?
Yes.
And like I said, like this, whoever this is, being the Wade in the jar, actually looks pretty close to Sabrina Lloyd. Like,
yeah, like I said, I thought it was.
Yeah, I don't know if they made a prosthetic or something, because it doesn't have to be a real person. She doesn't do anything in there.
Exactly.
I kind of thought like maybe they actually did get Sabrina Lloyd in just for like one shot of her in there doing the thing, and then they just reused it over and over and over again, which I'm pretty sure they did anyway with whoever it is in there.
Yeah, in the original script, she actually, like, the character of Wade was supposed to react more facially. You know, like she was supposed to have smiles and blinks and things like that in the original script. They didn't do that in the final version.
Maggie conveniently took a whole bunch of those Cro-Mag animal tranquilizers.
Right, exactly.
And I guess suggests that Remy put her out of her misery.
We assume they're animal tranquilizers. What if those are like animal, like, you know, like aphrodisiacs, you know, to have the animal, you know, like we don't know what those are. I have no idea what they are. It's just
they don't even use them anyway.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
She gives them to Remy, but then they're immediately captured, and then they just like they're of no consequence at all. We don't know what they were. We don't know what they did because they never use them.
Right. Well, wait. He doesn't. Remy uses them later.
Does he?
Yeah, when he attacks the Cro-Mag, he jams one into one of them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so he does. Yeah, he does jam one of them into one of them, and it's I think it sort of makes him pass out, but he also fights him, so he could have knocked them out as well. We don't know what it does to him.
He punches him in the face.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's actually what leads to like the good thing, because we get this Cro-Mag leader. Her name's Kesh.
Who's a woman.
A woman Cro-Mag.
I know.
And she goes full digs.
Full digs.
We just caught these people who are trespassing on our base at the very moment we're about to go and take back Cro-Mag Prime, and I'm just going to tell them everything, man. I'm going to tell them what the whole plan is. Mags are using human minds to harness the power of imagination to create a new form of trans-dimensional traversing, which would get them past the slide cage and yada, 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 and they can get back to Cro-Mag Prime.
Right.
They're thrown in the prison, and Remy fights off the guard and everything, but he doesn't kill him. You know, it's that whole thing about, like, if I kill him, then we'll just be as bad as they are.
Yeah, I was like, whatever, just kill him.
Yeah, I know, just kill the guy, seriously, just stab him.
There's actually a little bit in Messages in Time about that, too. Someone reasons that out, so we'll get to that.
Okay. Yeah, but it does lead to probably the best part of the episode, aside from that awesome flashback of him.
Right.
Where he tells the story of being in the prison with Wade. You know, sometimes she was there, sometimes she wasn't. We both knew that, you know, the Cro-Mags would play mind games with us, so we didn't talk very much, but it was great just to have each other there, and we could see each other and feel comforted by that. It was just an amazing monologue from Clavon. I loved it.
Yeah, it was really good. It was really good, but I just feel like, I don't know, hasn't he? I thought he talked a little bit about that before, not that exact scene with her, but about being in the prison. I thought he had talked about that in another episode, about dealing with his feelings in there, how it was, right?
Yeah, I think so. But I think this is just greater detail that included Wade and what actually happened there. Like he actually has that guilt because he kind of felt like it was the Cro-Mags.
Right, yeah.
Just messing with him. But as she was taken away, the last time he saw her, he looked into her eyes and he knew it was her.
Exactly.
So, yeah, it was just all that guilt. Like, that's why there is so much guilt in him. And yeah, if only the rest of the episode could have the weight of that.
Yeah.
It would be excellent. But of course, that's not how it is.
No.
Because we're going to get straight back into it. They're fighting off guards and they get out and they find Wade again. And of course, the Mags are preparing to invade. And Wade opens up another vortex. Right? Because he's communicating with her again. Because, Mallory had the foresight to be like, oh, Wade, why? Turn down this tranquilizer.
Yeah, so bad.
Yeah, so Remy's communicating with her again. She opens this vortex, right? And they go through it. And I'm like, did that vortex, just go to, the next room? Or
yes, it did.
To the mantis ship? It didn't go to another dimension. It just took them somewhere else in the building.
Exactly.
Weird. It was launch control, apparently.
That's why I said the original script, she only opens one at the very end. It makes a lot more sense. It's still a bad episode, but it makes a lot more sense.
And they're immediately captured again. We just went through that they were captured. They got away just to get captured again. She even opened a vortex to get them around. Yeah.
Yes.
And you're like, they should be able to get away from everything. No, they're just immediately captured again.
Right. They do this a lot lately in this whole in this season where they get captured, escape, captured, escape. And it confuses me when I'm watching it because I don't expect that because it's just bad writing. It's a bad thing, a plot device or whatever. Because it's I get confused. I'm like, wait. Were we just captured again? We were captured before. When I'm thinking back to the episode, it just confuses me. That's the last time that this happened. I forget what episode it was, but they were captured, and then they got released, and then they got captured again. I'm like, I was trying to go over the synopsis and take notes, and I'm like, what? Wait, where are we in this episode? Did they get captured 2 times or 3? No, 3? No, wait, what? So it's just I hate when they do that. It's just extra stuff that you didn't really need, I hate that escape and capture thing.
Now, this is where we get a big dump of Wade, her voice, right? Because we've been getting little bits of it in Remy's head, and there was a couple of good parts when he was thinking about the prison, and it was Remy, why won't you look at me? I'm right here, all that sort of stuff. And that was kind of nice, The performance was pretty good, but it's like you said in the trivia, they wouldn't give her $40,000 to come do the episode, so they paid her whatever it was to come in for a day or half a day, whatever, record some lines. So all they had was her lines that she recorded on that one day. That's all they had. And they had to put them in the episode, make it work. So, they just started playing them as if it was just this clip and then this clip and then this clip. And that'll work great. Oh, Remy, I am still here. And, oh, let me look through your eyes. No. And I'm just like, I mean, I love Sabrina Lloyd. It was great that it was her voice that she did those recordings, but it just didn't jive, did it? Didn't sit well.
It felt weird. Yeah, it just felt really weird. What I thought was even weirder, though, is how she just, rips the Cro-Mags apart when they come into the room. What is she doing there? Is she heating up the room? Is she heating up their bodies? And we haven't even said, where did, these telekinetic powers or these telepathy powers that she has, that are those the result of the Cro-Mags experimenting on her or what? I mean, we know she had some leanings towards psychic stuff and things like that, but this is just out of the blue.
When Kesh is going full digs, I mean, she's trying to explain all this stuff about using the human mind to make vortexes or something. It's whatever, as if this makes no sense.
Exactly.
But she does. She just tears them apart in the cheapest effect ever. You got two guys dressed as Cro-Mags, right? Sort of half-heartedly flailing.
Yes.
While the screen turns orangey or something.
Yeah. Well, same thing with Remy when she transports him or vortexes him out to the next world. It's he's sort of moving like that too. It's he kills it in some scenes, but you could tell that he's just whatever. This episode could have been so much better. It's fine, it's a paycheck.
The fact that Remy doesn't slide as well, that whole thing was weird. They slide, Mallory and Diana go. Then Maggie turns around and she goes, I need you. And she holds her hand to her heart and he's like, I love you, girl. And then he doesn't slide anyway.
Right, exactly. This is so different. We talked about this in the Messages in Time, how people liked the idea that the Sliders don't have that camaraderie that they used to have, when they were all from the same place. But this, you remember the Egyptian world, where the Sliders purposely missed the slide.
Yeah.
You know, Arturo was going to stay behind to help Quinn, you know, and Wade and Remy said, no, we're staying too. We're not going without you guys. And they missed the slide. They were going to give up 29 years, 30 years of their life for each other, you know?
Yep.
Where in here, it's like Mallory and Danny are like, nope, see ya. And they like take off.
I mean, that's what you got to like equate it to, was that time that they didn't slide on that Egyptian one, and that had weight to it, you know.
Yeah,
I keep going to that, you know, the weight behind it, and you're like, my God, they didn't slide. How are they going to figure this out? Yeah, here when Remy didn't slide, I was a bit like, all right, so he didn't slide, but I'm pretty sure like Wade's going to like do her mind vortex thing and everything.
Exactly.
This has no weight behind it whatsoever.
Yeah. None of the things in here had weight, like we said earlier. You know, it's like this just doesn't hold the same amount of power and weight that the other episodes have had.
He looks in the water, right, and sees her reflection.
Oh.
And it's pretty much the still that they would use of Sabrina Lloyd in the credits.
Exactly.
Like when she was still in the show. It's just that like still of her.
Yeah.
It comes on with, I love you, Remy. Whenever you need me, I'll be there.
Yeah. And it's like, what? You know, it's like, because, and even Remy's line, you know, like, she's gone. Wade is gone. But somehow I feel, and they just cut him off. Like, he doesn't finish that sentence, and then we see the still of Sabrina there. It's like, oh, come on. So she sacrificed what? Like, did she end the, did she destroy the ship? Is everything fine? Or is she actually still alive back there, helping them invade the homeworld? Like, we don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know.
It makes no sense that they wanted to keep that ambiguous, because this is supposed to be a resolution to that storyline.
Exactly.
How about, I don't know, we try and resolve it maybe.
Yeah, I know.
Is she dead or alive? I actually think I would prefer that she died. She sacrificed herself to save them. If that was the ending, I would have been like, all right, it's not a good episode. It's not an excellent way out for her, but at least she's dead now. And we know she's dead, and that's the end of it.
That's how the original script was. You know, like the original script was supposed to show the vortex. They were like the ship was in the vortex, and when Wade freaks out and destroys everything, there was supposed to be a bubble around the ship. That's what she was creating or something with her mind, some kind of bubble that allowed them to teleport this whole ship. And she basically destroys that bubble, and the ship starts coming apart in pieces. And, you know, it was, you know, very like, you know, it would have been a lot of money thrown at that effect, you know. But that's, you see that. You see the whole ship being destroyed, and then presumably, since the ship is destroyed, whatever's keeping her alive in that box is also destroyed. So you know that she's done in that original script.
You think about it, you're just like, this should be so good. They're bringing back Wade, and they're going to wrap up this story and stuff. The whole episode's just a wash, really.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I don't, like, there's a lot of hatred for the episode. And, like, I don't really like the episode at all. Like you said, there are some good moments. You know, there's a couple, you know, a tiny amount of good moments in there. But it's just, I don't know. I don't hate it as much as some people do, but it's definitely not like a good fitting ending for this character. If this was done with the woman like they had thought originally that they were going to do, just with a nameless woman who was linked to Remy, I think we would have been a lot more forgiving. But if the fact that it's Wade, such a beloved character, that's, I think, what really brings up the hatred for this episode, because it's just disrespect to that character.
Just a big letdown, really.
Yeah.
And now it's time for another episode of Yes Ma'am with Maggie Beckett.
Electric fences, I don't like the sound of that.
Yeah.
So did we slide into a prison without getting captured, thus eliminating the usual gunplay and middlemen?
This has been another episode of Yes Ma'am with Maggie Beckett.
All right, well, let's get into our second episode discussion today. The episode is Map of the Mind, written by another newcomer, I think, Robert Masello, and directed by a newcomer, Paul Raimondi. And this originally aired on September 17th of 1999.
I mean, look at it this way. It can't get much worse, right? We hope.
Let's find out.
Sean Carter?
Yes, I'm Sean Carter.
I am terribly sorry I mistook you for an orderly. I am Dr. Ruskin. When did you arrive?
Just as all hell broke loose.
I'm sorry you saw that. We had a bit of an incident this morning, but believe me, they are few and far between.
I'm sure they are.
I see you found your temp card.
Yes. I noticed it there on the table. Is this your clipboard?
Yes, and these are your employment papers. You can look them over when you get a chance. Just sign them and get them back to me at your convenience.
Great. Well, I am anxious to get back to work. Where's the courtyard again?
That is funny, Dr. Carter. The orderlies can handle that. Now, I need you to get down to room 12 to check on Jane White.
Sure. What's her status?
Jane is just one of our incurables and needs to be looked in on from time to time.
Consider it done.
Oh, and Dr. Carter, welcome aboard.
Sean Carter, cognitive therapy. This could work.
Our sliders land in the middle of an insane asylum and get separated when the police show up and push the inmates, along with Diana and Mallory, inside the building while Remy and Maggie hide and escape. Mallory disguises himself as a doctor and begins searching the rooms for Diana, while Remy and Maggie explore the town and discover that this world discourages creative thought of any kind. They narrowly avoid getting captured by a doctor specializing in fixing people with creative natures and head back to the asylum to rescue Diana and Mallory. Meanwhile, Mallory has discovered Diana, but she has unfortunately had her mind remapped, causing her to actually appear insane. Mallory's ruse is discovered, but before he can be remapped himself, Maggie and Remy arrive to save the day. With the help of an inmate who is actually the doctor who created the mind remap process, they are able to try and fix Diana's brain. The sliders slide, and upon arrival in the next dimension, they find that they were successful and Diana is back to normal.
So, Sean, what do you do?
I just finished a PhD in the mental health field. Yeah, I'm starting an internship at the Oakwood and then plan to do some work in remapping, things like that. Though I want to work with discordant cognition. Alice Ruskin, the department head, is a leader in the field.
Discordant cognition.
We try, but we just can't keep up with the technical stuff, you know?
Yeah, it's tough for laymen. Let me see if I can explain. You might call discordant cognition a kind of mental illness. You see, the brain itself forms unhealthy neural patterns which have to be cleared out and then remapped. In my dissertation, I actually worked on two theories. One suggests that creativity is the result of nurturing. I'm still inclined to think that most aberrants are born creative. But genetics, yeah, they're rather dull. Very little you can do about them. So, what do you do?
I'm a singer.
A singer sewing machine repairman. He's really good at it, too. You should see what this guy could do with a bobbin.
Sounds interesting. Wow, look at the time. I have an early day tomorrow. It was nice meeting you.
Likewise.
Ow. Sewing machine repairman?
They could lock you up. Don't you get it? They commit people like you.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I'm one of those wacky creative types. You think he suspects?
I don't know. But if we play our cards right, he could be our ticket back to Oakwood.
Okay, so it would appear that we have like nowhere near as much trivia on this one.
Yeah, not as much. There was no original script that iReactions could find. So what we got is from the boards where the expert was posting stuff back in the day that we talked about. So basically, the writer sold this story as the idea of artists and writers of fiction considered to be insane, delusional liars. Okay, so it's a little different, sort of the same thing, but it's mainly dealing with, you know, people who are like doing fiction type work, you know, or painting things that aren't real. So they were imprisoned because of that. Now, Remy was going to be the one who got stuck in the asylum because he was a singer, you know, so he was, you know, going to be the guy inside while Mallory and Diana were out. Keith Dameron rewrote the whole story. I don't know why he rewrote the whole story. I'm not sure because there was no explanation on it, but he rewrote the whole story, and basically there was a lot of stuff focusing on the guest stars. So like maybe the people in the museum, the inmates actually in there. There was a lot of stuff that focused on them, a lot of scenes focusing on them, which probably would have been cool. Instead, he removed all of that and added in the neural remapping, because that wasn't part of it, added in the telekinesis because he needed something to fill it out. So let's add that in there. You know, if they're going to mess with her mind, maybe the mind gets mixed up and now it can do telekinesis. So why not? So yeah, Remy was going to help pad out at the end. They needed extra time because they were short because they cut out so much stuff. So they had Remy explain to Diana what they just did to her a couple scenes earlier. So let's just add some extra dialogue there just to explain, well, here's what we did. Everyone saw this, but let me tell you because you were out. And see, here's the thing. It's so funny, isn't it? It's like, what the heck? Okay, why not? God. Rob Floyd, to his credit, he expressed his dislike of this. You know, he went to Bill Dial and said, you know, this is very repetitive. I don't think we have to explain things like this. You know, we've got intelligent fans. And Bill Dial, you know, something about Bill Dial. He liked Rob Floyd or didn't hate him as much as everyone else. You know, for some reason, he wanted Rob Floyd's approval, it seemed like. So he came up with excuses, you know, for why things were the way they were. And he said, oh, you know, I understand. I'm with you, man. I hate this, but, you know, it's the freelance writers. They just weren't up to standard. You know, they're not doing a good job. And Floyd says, you know, and he's trying to defend it as well. He's saying, well, maybe Dial was just under pressure. You know, he had so much pressure to produce the show, he couldn't rewrite the schlock that the freelance writers were coming up with. You know, and iReaction said, you know, I think Floyd was just being like, you know, snowed by Bill Dial. And I gotta agree there, you know. Rob Floyd does seem like a genuinely, you know, nice, honest guy, you know, and I think he just, you know, his good-naturedness, he just accepted what Bill Dial said, not thinking that there could be more to it than that. That's pretty much all we got for this episode here.
Oh, well, does that mean we can fit in a quick impression?
I think we can.
Yay! Cue the music.
Kermit the Frog and Bobcat Goldthwait walk down the street. By my calculations, my feet hurt about 3 miles worth.
And not one single drop of stuff to pick us up. I must be losing my touch.
I'm thinking that Alan and that hick didn't make it out of that place. So we stick to our routine. We get a room at the Chandler and we spend the night. If we don't see them by morning, we'll have to go back in.
Everything's so drab here.
Yeah, must be colorless world. Everything's so gray.
Here's the boarded up gallery. It's too bad, because this place could use some sprucing up.
They notice a sign in the window. Notice, this facility has been found in violation of Federal Order 534B, the Creative Curtailment Act.
Creative curtailment? What the hell is that?
Museums are against the law. Yay!
And
Scene.
What's the matter with her?
The people here have some process that rewires the brain to squash creative urges.
We heard about that.
We'll try this out. Where she and I come from, the right brain processes artistic ability, creativity, stuff like that.
Sure, Psych 101.
On this world, the left side of the brain performs those functions. These guys tried to work on Diana with a faulty schematic and botched the job.
You saying that these bastards fried her brain?
I don't think so. But something has caused a kind of cross-circuit. It's woken up parts of her brain that she's not normally in touch with. She can make a windstorm and cause things to float. But she can't talk.
So who can reverse this?
I think you just shot her.
Well, there's got to be another doctor here who can do it. We're running out of time.
I got an idea.
All right, so let's get into our discussion of Map of the Mind. Slide in on a party of sorts, I guess.
Something's going on. Yes.
And they meet this man in a tux who makes them tea and plays a violin without strings.
You know, no lie. I thought that guy was drunk when he said his first line.
Yeah.
I was like, what a man. They're really going bottom of the barrel this time.
Who is this guy? Like, his line delivery was just terrible.
And he's like, hey, how you guys doing? Welcome to the party. Like, whoa. All right.
I know, right? And I'm just thinking, like, how do they think that this is the world? Like, I think it's pretty obvious that everybody there isn't playing with a full deck of cards.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So I don't know why they go along with it.
I know.
It's weird. And then the riot police show up and gas the place. And they're all like, this is a riot?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a weird setup.
Yeah, it is a weird setup. What I thought was weirder was just the way Maggie and Remy escape, because it's so convenient. It's just like, let's hide behind a bush, and no one finds them. No one finds them. They just hide behind a bush. All this other stuff is going on, this, quote, riot or whatever, and they just end up escaping that way because they're hiding behind a bush. I just seemed that's too easy. It's like, come on, really? They couldn't think of another way to have them escape.
Because Diana and Mallory are, like, ushered inside to get away from it all.
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out this is the Oakwood Neural Remapping Institute. And Diana is actually caught in a net.
Mm-hmm.
Mallory disguises himself as an orderly and steals an ID, right? And then this woman is there, Dr. Ruskin, who is just the most unpleasant person.
Yes, she is.
Because Mallory showed up dressed like an orderly and picks up this temporary ID, she's just like, oh, you're Sean Carter? Right. Oh, well, my mistake. I thought you were just an orderly.
Exactly.
Let me just show you around and show you all almost like private procedures and everything.
Exactly.
I'm like, flimsy much?
Yes.
Yeah, and he has to go and see this quote-unquote incurable patient named Jane White. Yeah, and he finds her like drawing some sort of abstract pictures on the wall, and she says that they're messages from another world.
Yeah, and that comes up again later, but they never resolve this.
No.
Like, we don't know why they're drawing those designs or whatever. They do it, but we don't know why they do it.
Just something to do with collective unconscious or something.
Right.
We get there.
Yeah, we get there. We're getting there. Hang on, we're going.
Yeah. Because Diana is now in pretty much the psych ward, and the violin man's there. She's just there talking with him. He asks her if she's like a dancer or a painter or something. Like, why are you here?
Right.
And you're thinking, like, this is weird. He says that her mind is going to be remapped and she'll become lost. It's another thing that just seems inconsistent about the episode. Like, it seems like all these people have been remapped, but it, like, doesn't work on them or something. But as soon as they do it to her, she gets, like, all messed up or something. And then they throw out this, like, weird thing about, like, oh, she's from another world or something. So our brains are developed differently or something. So that's why she can get telekinesis. Whereas everybody else is just like, your mapping doesn't work on me.
It kind of, like, at first I was like, okay. And then I looked it up, and it kind of makes sense, because the way they explain it later is, the right brain is the creative, left side is the critical thinking, and then on this world, it's reversed. So when they do the remapping, they're working on the wrong side, I guess, is what, is how they explain it off. So it does make a little bit of sense to me when I think about it that way.
But I don't know. It just is like, why are they doing this remapping thing if it doesn't seem to actually work on anybody else?
Right. Maybe, because we don't get to see, and this is the whole thing. This is what the original script would have focused more on the inmates and why they're there. Maybe we would have seen remapped people outside in the world, like acting normal and non-creative or whatever.
Well, just at the same time, it's one of those things too where you're like, okay, it's an all right idea if it was done right. I've seen it done so much better in other ways, in other movies, like I've seen movies about gay kids who get sent to like weirdo Christian camps to reform them from being gay and stuff like that, and that's like so much more powerful. Like when you think about it, you're just like, these people aren't sick, they don't need this or something like that. They don't get into any of that here. It's just like, oh, you're creative, so you must be some kind of weirdo, so let's remap your mind.
Well, actually, iReactions told us about, he sent this information about a Doctor Who novel that was released 6 years after this episode, and it was called The Stealer of Dreams. And in this novel, he draws very in his, in iReactions amusing way, the way he does it, and I'm sure he'll post this up on the forums. He parallels the story of Doctor Who and his companion, but he shows how it could actually have been the Sliders in this story. He says, in this story, the Sliders, I mean the Doctor and friends, land on a world where fiction is illegal. He's like, in this tale, Quinn and Arturo, the Doctor, investigates police officers cracking down on illegal fiction creators, and Wade, Rose falls in with, it's funny the way he puts it in there. But yeah, it's an interesting, similar type story where if you're creating fiction, you're going to be imprisoned, and there's a whole synopsis of that he gives it. I'm sure it'll be up on the forums, but yeah, it has been done before, like you said.
And speaking of Doctor Who, you might want to check out the Pod Doctors, now available on iTunes. And
what is this now?
Just dropping in another little something for another podcast that maybe I do.
Oh, well, there you go. See. Now, all right, as a rat hole here, if we move off for a second, I have tried to get into Doctor Who so many times, with the revamp, like the new ones that started, 2005? And I tried. I just could not do it. And then finally, 4 months ago, I saw a clip of the latest guy who's playing Doctor Who, the older guy. Capaldi. I saw a clip of him ranting about something about war and peace, and I was like, that's really good. And I liked his companion, who I found out her name is Clara. I was like, oh, I like her. She's kind of neat, cute. And so I looked her up and found where her episode started. So I started watching where she first came in as a character. And it's with the Doctor Who's Matt Smith. And I'm like, oh, it's not too bad. I actually like this. So I watched like 4, 5, 6, maybe 7 episodes where she first, got introduced. And they were still going back and forth with her. And then the pawns, I guess, were the companions. And I'm like, oh, I actually like Doctor Who. And then Netflix went and didn't renew their contract with frickin' BBC. So now I'm like, well, now what do I do? Now I got to try to find the DVDs. I got to, it's like, come on. I heard BBC is coming out with a streaming service, but Doctor Who's not going to be on it for some weird reason. So I'm like, I just started to get into it. I just started to see what everyone else is seeing. And I'm like, fine, whatever.
You have to set your DVR when they do reruns on BBC America or something.
I guess so. It's like, God.
Anyway, side tangent.
Back to Sliders.
Yes. So Remy and Maggie, of course, find this world. It's like really, really dull. They find this art gallery, which is all closed up because of the Creativity Curtailment Act. Now, I had to look up what curtailment means.
Okay.
Because I had no idea.
It means like stopping, right? Like restrictions?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I don't know. It's a strange word, curtailment. I can't say I've ever heard of the word before, but hey, now it's part of my vocabulary.
Right.
So there you go.
Curtailment.
And now this is a point of contention for me and you. Because earlier this week, you sent me a message on Facebook, and you're just like, hey, man, have you watched Map of the Mind yet? Because I'm watching this woman in the museum, and she's going full digs.
Yes.
And there's something wrong with her voice. And then I watched the episode, so you saw it before me.
Yeah.
So I'm watching it, and I was waiting for it. I'm like, when we get to full digs characters. And I'm watching it, I'm just like, man, she is like overdubbed.
Yeah,
like this is not her voice. They have put new dialogue over this actor.
Yeah.
It is weird.
It was very weird. So strange. I felt vindicated like when I was looking over Earth Prime's review and episode guide just was it yesterday or the day before, and they also mentioned that something is weird with that woman's voice. It's like, what the heck? It just was like so loud and obnoxious. I don't know. Bad production, Sliders.
It is, yeah. But her whole thing is that she was there to rescue art or something.
Yes.
And she's like, are you guys scavengers as well? And I guess scavengers are people who do that. They go out and they try to save all this artistic expression or something. And what she found was this picture of a hobo clown on a T-shirt or something.
Yeah.
And she's like, this is art. Like, it has to be saved.
Yes.
Which, like, it could have been good. Like, just this thing that you would take for granted. That's a random image on a T-shirt, just something like that. And because of the way the world is, these people have no choice but look at it and go, okay, this is art. This is artistic expression. Like, it's something in a world of nothing. It should have been heavier.
I think they should have used the dogs playing poker painting. I think that would have been perfect. You know, why not? This is art. And then Remy would be like, okay.
Yeah, this is what I'm, like. I know what they were going for.
Yeah,
it wasn't landing right.
Well, yeah, it's like,
and especially because of what they've done with this extra.
Yeah, I know, it's so distracting.
It is.
It's like so many things in these last 2 seasons. Good idea, but not realized fully enough. You know, that's the problem.
And then, fortunately enough, Maggie and Remy decide they're going to go and hang out at the Chandler bar, and they run into the real Dr. Sean Carter. His car had broken down, allowing Mallory to have stolen his identity for the meantime. They sort of had this backwards and forwards with him, which is weird from the get-go, because they cut to it and they're sort of having a laugh with him. And I'm like, why would you be doing this in such like a drab world? Like,
right.
he has to know that something's up, right?
Exactly.
So, like, Remy almost has a slip-up where he's like, I'm a singer, and Maggie's like, sewing machine repairman, singer sewing man. And then when he walks away, he's like, oh, right, yeah, I'm like a whack job creative type. Do you think he knew? And I'm like, how could he not know? You were laughing and giggling and joking with the guy. Like, people obviously don't do that in an expressionless, uncreative society.
Right. And Remy should have been quicker about that. Like, he shouldn't have said that. Like, he should have known.
Yeah. And then while this is all going on, Diana's going all friggin' universal consciousness, telekinesis powers.
Just weird.
On the whole place.
It's just weird. And like these things that they draw on the wall, like I said, they don't ever resolve it. They just claim to be messages from another world. And it's like, I don't know, this whole collective consciousness thing, I was just like, oh, please, really? This is ridiculous.
And then, like, she's like, okay, so I talked to the real Dr. Sean Carter, and I know that you're a fraud and all that. And I'm just like, whatever.
Right.
Carter comes back with 2 guys to try and get Remy and Maggie, because, like, why wouldn't he?
Exactly.
But because of overdubbed exposition extra full digs, they were ready for him, because she was telling him, like, don't trust the brain Nazis or something.
Right.
Was it brain Nazis? Yeah. And they get his ID. So everybody's getting Dr. Carter's IDs.
I know, exactly.
And then they just drop him. Like, what? He just spent the rest of their time there unconscious in their Chandler hotel room, I guess. They just leave him there. Never to be seen again.
Exactly.
And they go to get Mallory and Diana out.
Well, once they get back in there, the question that I have, okay, because they save Mallory and they need to remap Diana. The question I have is this doctor, okay, this Dr. White, this Malcolm White, he's the guy who invented the remapping device. He is in the asylum, self-admitted, and was he remapped himself?
I don't know.
Because he acts like, for the majority of the episode, he acts like he's legitimately crazy. Playing the violin without strings and and doing all this, ridiculous, goofy stuff where I thought he was drunk, and then when they decide they need to fix Diana, he's just like, oh, I can help you. I invented this thing. I can do it. Yeah. It's like, well, wait, why are you even in here then?
Suddenly totally with it.
Yeah, it's like, I understand he feels guilt over what happened to his daughter, but still, it's like all of a sudden he's totally coherent. And let me help you fix this. I just thought that was lame. I thought it was very lame, very cheap. Yeah,
because the big twist is that he is Jane's father.
Right.
And then he gives this whole thing about, like, oh, I invented this thing so, like, your mind could travel to, like, the universal consciousness.
Yes, that's what I'm like, what? Okay.
And, Jane was a willing participant because she exists, like, half here but half there, and I wanted to send her there. But, they've used this device on her like a bunch of times. Nothing happens. And they erased her original scan. So now she's stuck here fully or something. And I'm just like, I don't get this. This is stupid.
I'm confused about his timeline, too, because he's like, I invented this machine and, I tried it on my daughter, but the government came in and took the machine and erased her records. I'm like, did this happen like right after you sent her to the universal consciousness? And then the government walked in, hey, we're going to take that, unplug, It's like, that seems unrealistic. It's like, I think you would have had enough time to bring her back and restore her. It just seems like they just busted in and say, hey, we're going to take this. Thanks. And just like unplugged it, walked out with the machine.
So they're like, okay, so fix Diana, like put her back the way she was, right? Because Jane's all like, she doesn't want to come back. She's happy in the universal consciousness.
Yeah, sure she is.
They do the remapping thing to put her back the way she was, right? But she's still not there.
Yep.
So Mallory's just like, okay, so do it to the other side of her brain then.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, why should that work?
Well, like I said, I think it's because of the whole right brain, left brain thing. I think that's why.
But nothing happened to the other side of her brain. So why doing the remapping to the other side of the brain? Why would that bring her back? That makes no sense.
I'm trying to reason. I'm trying to reason it.
Oh, God, it's just stupid.
No, I know. I'm trying to make a reason for it, though.
Yeah, so they have to slide anyway, like right after it's done.
Yes, so they don't know if it worked or not.
Exactly, but they get there and everything's fine.
Yeah, everything's good, and let me explain to you exactly what happened, Diana, so it's like, okay.
Yeah, but the weird thing is, right, because, Diana's in, like, hospital robes, right?
Right.
So Maggie's just like, oh, I think the first thing we need to do is get Diana some proper clothes. So her and Mallory walk off, right? Mm-hmm. Off to, like, stage left, and then Diana comes back around, and she and Remy, like, stroll off in the completely opposite direction to where Maggie and Mallory went.
Right.
Was it hook up at the Chandler, I guess?
Yes.
I don't know. Where are you guys going? We went this way. I didn't like it. I did not like this episode. I just thought it was stupid. It was pandering. It was not good sci-fi. I just didn't like it.
I liked it better than Requiem. I just think, again, it's like so many episodes where I'm like, this has such potential. So I like it more because of the potential that it had than actually what we saw.
I'll take or leave it.
Jane?
Hello, Father.
Then you're not a lunatic? No, the only lunatic thing I ever did was to invent this procedure. No, correction, the second. The first was using it on Jane.
Why did you do it in the first place?
I never intended to use this device for political purposes. I sought to tap into the collective human consciousness, which exists in limits beyond this dimension, a realm I believe is accessible through certain uncharted regions of the brain. Jane exists half in that place and half in our own. She was a willing participant. She shared in my passion for the unknown. Unfortunately, when certain governmental powers discovered the device, they took it and they erased her neural map. And without it, I'm helpless. I can't restore her. And as penance, I committed myself.
Well, let's get into messages in time.
There was not much, again, for this second episode, for this map of the mind. I tried to find stuff about it. I used multiple search terms, and I really came up with just like one post on it. And basically it was just someone saying, universal consciousness, barf, please. Like they were not into it. And I couldn't find much discussion on it. I saw it referenced a couple times, but no one was really talking about that. It was in reference to other episodes, like, oh yeah, that episode that came after or before Map of the Mind, all this stuff. There wasn't, I don't know why. Again, maybe it's the search terms, because we got map and we got mind, and that's it. So it was very difficult to find. I tried looking for Jane, I looked for the Dr. Carter, and it's just, they're very generic names as well. So, it's like I could not find much about Messages in Time for this episode. So we don't really know too much about what they thought about it besides that one message there.
Yeah, that one person who I completely agree with 100%.
Exactly. Now, contrast that with a huge amount of stuff for Messages in Time for Requiem. I mean, there was so much. I definitely could not include all of it, but here's what we got for Messages in Time for that episode. We got people, they were starting off by lamenting the end of Sliders because it's coming to a close. They know it's coming to a close, and what's going to hold, what's going to be in the future for the bulletin board that they're talking on. you know, because if the episodes are done, are they going to keep talking each week on this bulletin board? And so they start talking about new shows to watch, and they talk about different boards that they go to hang out on and talk. And one person's like, oh, you know, maybe I'll follow you over there because, you know, it's been 5 years we've been talking. Might as well follow you over there and hang out, you know? So it's kind of interesting to see, you know, like all these people who, you know, have been watching and commenting for the last 5 years on Sliders, and they're like, well, I guess now it's over. We got to find someplace else to go. You know, it's kind of like what's going on over at Sliders TV. We're like, we're coming to the end. You know, we're coming to the end of the rewatch of Sliders. We're going to move on. You know,
I know.
Sorry,
so
guys.
close, so close to the end.
I mean, they still do some superhero stuff on Sliders.tv, so we can still post there about you know. Our next venture of Lois and Clark, but yeah, it's like oh, you know, it's coming down to the end.
It is.
So this one guy had a huge rant about Requiem, and basically I'm just going to list everything he was talking about, and he's like, you know what, this episode I'm just going to go off here, so let me just address all these points. And he goes on, he's like, there's this lousy effects, public access channel style effects. The idea of the exposed Sabrina brain and the disembodied head should have been shot down at, you know, the first thing. The animation of the vortex that Wade made was so choppy, it was ridiculous looking. The giant matte painting of the ship was so bad that I couldn't even tell what it was. Even when I paused the tape, I couldn't tell it was a giant ship. He said it's ridiculous that the prolonged sliding would make one sick. It's just more padding. The whole thing about sliding with Remy's double is more filling, trying to make it last the show or the script last longer. Sabrina sounds absolutely bored given the lines. It's totally understandable. And why does Maggie care if Remy kills a Cro-Mag? You know, the flashback was the best part of the episode. And Maggie being upset about the professor is absurd because she barely knew him. This episode was pathetic city. It was a good review, you know. But he makes the point there. Maggie really didn't know the professor that well, but she gets very upset. Professor's gone, Quinn's gone, Colin's gone, now Remy, everybody's gone. You know, I mean, I understand she's upset, but really, you know, the professor, he's gone because of you.
Yeah, like you came into the show and then left the world with them, but the professor died on your world, so you knew him for like a day.
Exactly. When Maggie kills Maggie in the episode kills the Cro-Mags later with a gun. Okay,
oh, that's right. Yeah, she just shoots up the place.
Yeah, but then earlier she's like, "No, Remy, you don't want to do that. You know, you don't want to kill." So someone was playing devil's advocate and said, "Well, you know what? Maybe Maggie was trying to stop Remy from killing that guy because she knows what it's like to kill. She knows the toll it takes on your mind and your soul, and you know." So maybe she was trying to save Remy from that. And I'm like, well, okay, that's not bad. But Remy was in, you know, the Marines or the Air. What was he? I don't even remember what he was in. He was in the armed forces somehow.
He's killed Mags before.
Yeah, so it's not nothing new, you know. But it's a good way to try to reason it out, you know. The one person said parts were okay, but there were parts where I thought, man, I could do better than this. And if I'm thinking that, that's not a good sign. So, and that's true, you know. Like it's like, yep, yeah. I get that. And then the best way to sum up all the negative feedback about this episode was this one person who said, you know what? They tried to tie up a loose end, and they did it, but they did it with a barbed wire. Yeah, it's like that's perfect. That's perfectly fitting right there.
We've tied it up, but it still hurts.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, well, there it is. So next week, we're talking about 1,000 Deaths and heavy metal. Shall we venture a guess at what these are about?
1,000 Deaths. I wonder if this has to do... Well, if this happened during season 4, I would have said this is like a Mark Scott Zickery thing and something about sliding a slide wave again. Maybe 1,000 people go missing and they think it's like 1,000 deaths or something like that. Mm-hmm. If it happened during season 4, but he's not around anymore. So, yeah. What do you think?
1,000 deaths. Now, I don't think this would be it, but wouldn't it be interesting if they were wrapping up Colin?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Because he got like split into like 1,000 different people or something.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because they wrapped up some Sabrina Lloyd there, so...
Well, yeah, they wrapped up her, they wrapped up Quinn. I wonder, I don't remember if they wrap up Colin, so yeah. All right.
Maybe.
Could be.
I don't think so, though. I think I would remember that.
Yeah, probably.
But the fact that it's called 1,000 Deaths, though, so it's just like, let's wrap it up and have him just die.
Exactly. Why not?
Wow.
So Heavy Metal, when I saw the title down there, I didn't know that was the next episode, but I saw it there and I'm like, I wonder if this is going to be another episode where there's like a band, you know, like where Wade got involved with the emo band. Maybe there's going to be a heavy metal band, you know, and Mallory gets involved with it and becomes like their bassist or something.
That's what I was going to say. Like,
yeah.
Is this going to be like more Mallory bad boy style?
Yeah. Or we're going to be on maybe an industrial world where steel is king and, you know, I don't know.
Who knows?
I have no idea.
We're getting to the home stretch here, so could be anything.
I don't remember what we said about Map of the Mind last week. I remember what we said about Requiem. We guessed that one, but I can't remember.
Pretty much remembered.
Anyway, all right. That's it for this episode of the Rewatch Podcast. Keep up with listener interaction by liking our Facebook page at facebook.com/Rewatch Podcast and follow the show on Twitter at RewatchPod. You can visit our webpage at rewatchpodcast.podomatic.com, which has some of our favorite links there, such as Dimension of Continuity, earthprime.com, and the active forum over at sliders.tv.
And you can always write us an email or record a voice message, depending. Who cares if you like the episodes or not? Just
right.
Let us know. We need to be vindicated, just
Yes.
as Bill Dial needs to be
Oh,
vindicated.
God, yes.
And you can send that over to the Rewatch Podcast at gmail.com. Also, if you've enjoyed the show, please consider giving us a rate and review on iTunes. It's always very helpful. And you can help support the Rewatch Podcast by heading over to patreon.com/Rewatch Podcast and making a monthly contribution as little as $1. Helps us get the lights on.
Hey, you know, I was just wondering. I wonder if Rob Floyd listens to this show. Our reactions, we should tell him that we're giving him very positive reviews, because we are.
Yeah.
You know, we like Rob Floyd. So
Yeah.
tell him to listen in on season 5.
That would be awesome.
That
He's
would be.
retweeted us a couple of times.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. Well, thank you for joining me again, Tom.
Of course.
And I would just say, until next time, the wacky creative types tend to jumble things up with their crazy ideas.
We gotta slide.
The Rewatch Podcast is not associated with NBC Universal, St. Clair Entertainment, Fox, or Sci-Fi Channel. The use of any and all copyrighted material is only for parody, news analysis, critique, or educational purposes, as provided in United States Code Title 17, aka Fair Use. Music provided by Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com.
Copyright 2016, The Rewatch Podcast.
Sliders.
Hi, Rewatch Podcast listeners. I'm Corey.
I'm Tom.
And I'm Nathan.
First off, let me say that we have all had a blast doing the Rewatch Podcast. Every week, we put out another episode for free for you. And although we enjoy these discussions with each other, we truly do this for you guys out there in podcast land.
That's right, Corey. But we are here today to tell you about Patreon. Every week, there are costs involved in podcasting about film and television, including hosting and bandwidth charges, our own personal internet usage, and film or show rentals and purchases. So, we're asking you to become a Patreon supporter.
If you can afford as little as $1 to throw our way per month, it would really help us keep the lights on. And if you want to send $100 our way every month, we wouldn't turn that down either. But it's your choice, and we appreciate the support you bring.
As always, we strive to bring you the best quality shows we can create, and we hope that you enjoy them. So head on over to patreon.com/Rewatch Podcast to become one of our patrons and show your support for the Rewatch Podcast.
And if we get enough patrons, we may even be able to produce exclusive content just for the supporters in the form of simply getting episodes before the main feed release, or even bonus film discussion episodes as a thank you for your support. The website again is patreon.com/Rewatch Podcast.
Thanks, everyone.